By way of official introduction, I am Abby Lorden. I am one of the founders of the Restaurant Technology Network. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, either on an RTN gathering or in person, welcome, and I'm thrilled you're able to be here. The Restaurant Technology Network is a membership community. We're focused at our core, and our reason for breathing RTN into life initially was to create technology standards that would fuel interoperability and make new technology innovation even easier for restaurants and the tech partners that serve them. We have a lot of different fun meetings that happen, though, beyond just the standards, and you are here for one of them, the RTN Townhall. RTN Townhall is a fun moment for the membership community to come together, unscripted, no slides, really fun and somewhat informal conversations, but with a bit of a theme and with an incredible panel of members that are on the mic. The theme for this RTN Town Hall, for this month's Town Hall, is scaling restaurant technology, how to get from 1 to 3,000 or anywhere in between. We have a great group of restaurant operators and technology partners who are members of the community that are going to share their ideas and tackle this topic with us. I'm going to turn the conversation over to my colleague and editor-in-chief Robert Firpo Cappiello from Hospitality Technology. And as I part, I want to remind you one more time, if you're just joining us, to please go ahead into the participant tab and update that participant tab to include your name. You can rename it to include your name and your company so that we know who you represent today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Robert Firpo Cappiello with Hospitality Technology and RTN. Robert, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Abby. So I'm editor-in-chief at Hospitality Technology, which is the media brand that partners with Restaurant Technology Network. And some of you I know, some of you I don't know. If I don't know you, please introduce yourselves like after the fact. I love meeting you. I love hearing your stories, and you may end up on the mic next time. So scaling is a really interesting story, and the restaurant operators and solution providers who are joining us will tell it better than I do. But really, wherever a restaurant is on their growth journey, the idea of scaling technology is going to be, if it isn't already, an integral issue, and you've got to scale at the pace that's right for you. Increasingly, the idea of growing profitably is more appealing than that top line growth, and there are factors that we'll be discussing. So very briefly, we'll be joined by 4 restaurant operators from Amy's Drive-Thru, Clay Handy, Monaco's Pizza, and Flynn Restaurant Group, who will articulate some scaling challenges. Each of them has a unique story. When they're done, they will be, when they've articulated those challenges, we'll have responses from 3 great solution providers, MTech Mobility, Scale Computing, and Hughes. So without further ado, I'm going to kick things off by introducing Abdul Wahab Khalid, is Chief Technology Officer at Clay Handy. We're going to give each restaurant operator between 3 to 4 minutes to articulate their challenge. Abdul, take the mic.
Thank you so much, Robert. Hello, everyone. This is Abdul Wahab. I represent Clay Handy as CTO, implementing both technology and traditional into the line of operation as restaurant that we operate. One of the biggest challenges that I think we faced back 12 years ago when we started the business was not actually the technology itself, but aligning it with the realities of the restaurant businesses. On one hand, when we say technology as automation and AI, it can help reduce labor pressure, increase consistency, and speed up service. But on the other hand, restaurants are very people-centric businesses. Customers don't just come for food, they come for an experience. Striking the balance between efficiency through automation and maintaining that human connection is very important and also very tricky. So, for example, we have a number of scaled AI-assisted automated machines and equipment in our restaurants and also our bulk kitchen operations, where everything is kind of maintained and automated. But when it comes to the front end, to the dining and also the catering services and events, we want to be able to know what our customers are thinking and the tools that may work well in the theory, but scaling them across multiple locations with diverse customers bases and staff who aren't always tech savvy creates that friction. And so that is kind of something that I at Clay Handy try to resolve. So I will be leaving this my introduction part with kind of a question that with all the members, how do you think scaling technology in a way that it doesn't dilute the culture and hospitality that makes our brand special? That would be my takeaway question. Yes.
That was great. Thank you. And we'll get we'll jump into answers to your question and further discussion. Thank you, Abdul. I want to pass the mic now to Douglas Hunter, Enterprise Project and Systems Manager at Amy's Drive-Thru. Douglas, take the mic.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. Yes, I'm Doug Hunter. I work with Amy's Drive-Thru. We are a much smaller business. We've got 3 operating units at the moment. And it's really kind of that conversation of, how do we layer on enough technology to really just keep up with everybody else, all of our larger friends here. And at the same time, not get too top heavy with expenses, only having 3 operating units. I think for me, it's a lot of balancing, going back to the basics, balancing the innovation with ROI, really looking at it, am I seeing sales or speed of service or guest experience, or any of those being impacted by this new technology? And I think for us, it's really leveraging, leveraging those trials and those 30 to 90-day trials, and just getting out of the hood and testing out a little bit. So I think that's a big lever that we pull at Amy's, just to make sure that this is going to work for us. Another thing we really look for is avoiding just the bloat that we see in tech stacks. I think so much is changing so quickly, and I just see, we have all these different platforms we're using, but as they innovate and as they change, we start to see overlap. So really just monitoring that on a quarterly basis has been a big help for us to try to really keep costing down. And I think another couple pieces are just scalability and flexibility. We talk about scalability, but if it's not flexible as well for brands as small as ours, we're ever changing and trying new things. So having something that's flexible, things are the platforms we're using are modular or have open APIs to help us grow when we need to, I think has been huge for us. And the last thing I think I really look for when we're vetting technology is just what is going to be the employee and the guest adoption. If it's clunky, if it's difficult, I'm not going to have time to train, 200 employees. So it needs to be something that's user friendly. Same with our guests. We don't have the opportunity to be educating our guests, at a larger scale like that, being such a small team right now. So some of the challenges we face, and excited to talk more about them later.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Douglas. Now I'm going to pass the mic to Douglas Davis, who's Information Systems Coordinator at Monocal's Pizza.
Hi, my name is Douglas Davis. My friends call me Doug. You can call me Mr. Davis. But no, seriously, I'm the Information Systems Coordinator at Monocal Pizza Corporation. We operate 60 Monocal's Pizza restaurants throughout Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Missouri. And half of those are franchise operated, half are corporate. So we're a little bit bigger than Amy's, but no less dealing with the same situation. As the senior most IT executive on the corporate side, I have a team of 4 that manages all things IT for all of the corporate locations, 32 of them, plus the headquarters. I kind of threw up a montage of challenges that we're facing. I'm a deep dive on one of them, but I'll just throw them out there for you. Things to think about as you're looking at things. Telephones. We know the POTS lines are becoming overly expensive. And how do you move to VoIP lines in a way that doesn't scare the heck out of people who work for your company for years and are used to the way the telephone works? EMV issues. We all know those are real. Being able to accept chip cards and do it with your point of sale system. Securing the cloud. Cloud is necessary, important. But of course, there are enough people out there that don't want a full-time job unless they're actually trying to hack somebody. And how you maintain, monitor that, and handle the human input needed to make sure that happens on a regular basis. And of course, the big one is staffing. I'm sure that we both faced or all face the staffing issue. The first thing we face in staffing is people that want to make $20 an hour with a $3 an hour work ethic. The beautiful part about that one is it can be trained. You can teach people to have work ethic. That's not a problem. If they've got to come to work, and they've got to want to be trained. The second thing is just in general staffing. If you've got a staff of 3 drivers and on a regular night and 2 of them call off, you've got one guy trying to deliver all that pizza to all the locations. How do you fix that? One of the things we're trying at this point in time is to dip our toe into the third-party delivery. We're looking at DoorDash Drive to offer an enlarged group of drivers that let us get our product not only to our people in our range, which is only 3 to 5 miles around the store, but we're thinking of using their DoorDash Marketplace and Drive to expand that so that we can reach out to about a 10-mile range, because they're willing to drive further. But of course, maintaining the quality of the product and the control over where it's going is very important to us. So these are things we're playing with, and you want to know how that goes? Well, see me in 6 months and we'll talk about it.
Thank you so much, Douglas. And so many of those challenges you articulate, I know resonate with other restaurant operators on the call. And our final restaurant operator to share a challenge will be Gil Brucken. He's Director of Restaurant Support at Flynn Restaurant Group.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. I am Gil Brucken. Title is correct. Flynn Group is the world's largest restaurant franchisee. We operate 3,000 restaurants domestically under the brands of Applebee's, Arby's, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Panera, Taco Bell, and Planet Fitness as well. So there's a lot of brands, but and it's a fun job that we have managing all of this on a daily basis. So I'm blessed to have a great staff, about 100 folks that work in 3 different areas of IT. The first is our service desk, where we provide frontline support to our restaurants. The second is our IT warehouse, which is a 12,000 square foot facility just south of Cleveland, where we repair and deploy broken point of sale equipment. And thirdly are our field techs, our IT feet on the street that visit our restaurants and repair IT equipment, swap things out, and that sort of thing. Think of techs and vans. So the 3 things well, 3 things I guess come to mind that we're kind of working our way through, because we're supporting multiple POS systems and multiple brands. As you can imagine, a disruption in one brand, because we're all a shared service, can create a burden on all the others. So if I have an issue in Wendy's, for example, that overwhelms my service desk, that means that the other brands may not be getting the support that they need for that moment, because all of my agents are tied up doing something else. So we have some pretty robust monitoring tools in place to help us spot those trends in their infancy, to help mitigate the issues that can cause and get things righted back, most importantly for our customers. So we also, for example, have multiple remote control tools on our desktop, on our service desk, that our franchisors sometimes require we use certain tools to access our back of house PCs and POS terminals. So you end up with 5 or 6 different remote control tools, which can be a pain in terms of like hiring a new service desk agent and trying to train them as to what remote control tool you use for what piece of equipment. So in some cases, we've been able to standardize that. In other cases, not so much, but something we're still kind of working through. The overriding thing that I think for me is there's no blueprint for a company our size that does what we do. So we can't go back and say, yep, let's just see what so-and-so did. Let's just follow them. When they got to be this large, they did this. Well, there's no one that's as large as we are. So, taking the leap and building a 12,000 square foot warehouse this year is something that I don't know how many restaurant operators have a forklift in their IT warehouse, but we have one, or pallet racking. But these are things that we need to be able to scale and grow. So we're always balancing the need between third-party expertise for areas where we don't have expertise, but at the same time leveraging our scale to be able to take advantage of using our own folks to do work where that makes most business sense and cost-wise works. And the third thing is around purchasing. So imagine the size of our company as it is now. We can get pretty good pricing with a lot of vendors now for purchasing IT hardware and things like that. In some cases, we can get better pricing than our franchisors. So we work with our franchisors. We don't work against them. We partner with them in some cases to help them leverage our own purchasing scale. What helps our brand or our restaurants can help a system. So, but going through those efficiencies and just leveraging that as we go through to help us ensure we all get the best price, something I'm sure is on all of our minds. So those are things that I guess I wanted to share with you today.
All right, that was fantastic, Gil. And I'm hearing 4 diverse sets of challenges, and at the same time a through line that unites them. And I'm excited to introduce our solution providers who are going to address it. I do want to just briefly articulate a few best practices for the conversation. We will stay away from specific pricing as a topic. I know you all know this, and we will not speak of competitors in a disparaging way. I'm gonna hand the mic now to three solution providers who will each get about 4 minutes to kick off. They're not concluding statements by any means. They will kick off our sort of more roundtable discussion around these challenges that the restaurants have articulated. Tony Fernandez is Chief Executive Officer at MTech Mobility. Tony's going to kick us off from the vendor side. Tony, the mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Robert, and welcome everybody to this session. And Robert, it's an interesting topic, right? This is about scaling restaurant technology, and we just heard from 4 different operators with multiple brands. As you heard, some of the folks that were speaking actually have to support not only different POSs and different tech stacks, but also different brands and different brand experiences. So it's interesting as MTech is a global logistics operation. So we also get to have fun with dealing with these type of challenges, not only in the United States, but also internationally. So we'll table that for today. But the challenges are significant, especially for some of the multinational brands that we're supporting. So when we think about scaling, the answer is actually, from my perspective, and when we work with different companies to actually try to craft a solution for their individual restaurant, their operators, and then of course their brands, sometimes we're able to integrate existing supplier solutions. And of course, different restaurant groups have to deal with commitments that they've made and investments that they've made, whether that's the POS or the POS system or the loyalty system, or even the payment system that's become, very strategic for a lot of restaurant groups today. So you're starting to hear the word platform come up quite a bit. And, in our experience, we try to work with every brand to talk about what their tech stack looks like and all of the good stuff in regards to the technology that's in there, but also, interesting enough, what that brand experience. So you heard Robert talk about that. I'm sorry, Abdul talk about that early on in regards to, even though they're a smaller group and they're looking at, staying up with all the larger brands, the experience, that human connection is really important to them. So what we found at MTech is with our experience with all the different groups that we currently support, is that it's almost like a Rubik's Cube. And every restaurant group, even though there's similarities in the challenge for dealing with today's technology and where the brands have to go, there is commonality in those issues, but the Rubik's Cube is different for every restaurant. It's every restaurant brand and that experience that they're trying to deliver. So for us as a solution integrator, the challenge in supporting these restaurants that are trying to scale is helping them with the tech stack, helping them with the different technology partners that they've already selected and where they're trying to move to. So it is a complex movement. It is a complex process, but there is a way to get through that. So when we talk about platform, you hear that quite a bit. You'll hear us talk about platform, and very quickly, our perspective is that there's 3 primary areas. There's the software solutions, there's the hardware solutions, and you just heard Gil talk about the servicing solutions. So it has to do with all those 3 things. And when we look at working with different restaurant groups and talk about the platform, try to streamline that tech stack. Try to figure out where are the things that can be consolidated, where are the things that we can actually try to save complexity and also improve that ROI to actually save funds. In most cases, we look to different third-party solutions that might be out there, and we partner with the POS companies or the gateway companies and the payment solutions. But sometimes we have to craft our own. And we partner with different OEMs, like what we do in mobile with Samsung for a mobile point of sale. And you all have seen many of those solutions being implemented at restaurant groups like Outback, Bonefish, Carrabba's, BJ's, even Chick-fil-A. So you'll see those types of solutions that we've actually crafted by assembling those things. And it is a challenge. It is a challenge that we all face. And again, as I'll reiterate, it's all about kind of working the solution that's specific for that particular brand. So it's interesting. One last comment, Robert, is that we also have to think about, we at MTech, it's interesting because we're also being ported, and some of the POS companies and software companies are actually coming to us because they have scaling challenges too. And they leverage, like Gil said, some of the logistics and operations to ultimately support the restaurants. So we kind of see both sides of this equation. And we're excited to every day's a challenge. Every day there's something new, but we are making a difference, and the answers are somewhere inside of what everybody is saying. That's the key. There's no silver bullet out there. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Tony, thank you so much. Tony Fernandez from MTech Mobility. I know we'll hear more from you in as we shift to a roundtable discussion, but that was a great kickoff for the vendor side. Richard Newman, Chief Strategy Officer at Scale Computing. I'm going to hand you the mic to respond to some of these challenges.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. So it's a delight to be here. My company, Scale Computing. Obviously, with scale in the name, you'd think we'd have an opinion or two about how to scale restaurant technologies. But what's incredible is when I signed up to do this panel as RTN members, we weren't Scale Computing. This is actually the result of an acquisition that we did just a couple of weeks ago. So it's very apropos. We obviously, at Scale are all about sort of scaling. We work with some of the largest restaurant brands on a global basis. Deploying something that Tony mentioned, which is a platform to deliver both networking and underlying applications. So a couple of things that we've sort of seen and learned is first, and this often, sometimes especially solution providers lose sight of it, but it's really all about the Benjamins. It's about cost for almost all restaurant operators. And cost becomes critical when you look at scaling, because we've seen many times a healthy, profitable restaurant operating with maybe a couple dozen locations look to try to go to the hundreds and beyond, and watching their costs quickly get out of control, looking at the profitability that they're maintaining on a per restaurant basis under increasing pressure. Nobody scales what they're doing to make less money. It's really all about providing more to your guests at the end of the day, who want to do more business with you, typically on a geographic basis, but it also could be about the menu choices you offer or the types of cuisine your restaurant provides. You can scale in different types of ways. One of the challenges here also is when you come up against the problem of solution providers in the space trying to do one size fits all, types of solutions. And again, getting to the different sides of the Rubik's Cube, there is no easy answer. And you can certainly go with convenience by trying to pick some of the largest of the technology providers in the space who might offer solutions that are very big, very comprehensive, hoping you'll have, within sort of their embrace, everything you need. But what we increasingly see, particularly in today's world where things like platforms and APIs and the ways you connect systems really matter, an increasing ability to go best of breed, and the ability to sort of choose the solutions that you want to have that best fit your needs and put them together. But to do this, you have to have sort of an underlying infrastructure at your restaurants, which is agile, which can adapt and which can change. And this, obviously, when you're looking at the solutions that are out there and how you want to put things together, even if you're a relatively small business, understanding what it means to have an open architecture, understanding what it means to be able to have a solution that you can build on rather than be locked into, become really important. Now, with all that said, the amount of capabilities that someone like Gil has within his restaurant business versus you know, as someone who's running, you know, a 5-location chain, it's significantly different. And you obviously have a greater dependency often on vendors and partners the smaller you are, because you have less of ability to sort of bring the skills and the technology in-house and make it more adaptable. But that doesn't mean you have to be locked in at the end of the day. We've seen that the one-size-fits-all solutions, the closed solutions, are not necessarily a bad place to kind of get started, but you pretty quickly have to start looking at what it means to be, you know, some more open and more flexible. And a lot of this comes down to what your underlying agreements look like. You know, are you buying services on a transactional basis only? In other words, every time you ring up a ticket for a customer, are your vendors taking a bite of that ticket? If that's the case, it becomes an immediate obstacle to scaling, because the more tickets you generate, the more money you're paying out there. And typically the curve that you're on doesn't start dropping those per transactional costs as fast as you're adding transactions to the pie. That's the formula that most of the transactional sort of vendors would like you to be on. So when you think about the agreements that you're entering with the technology solution providers out there, take a hard look at it and realize there is no one size fits all. And if the only answer they'll accept is yes, then you're probably dealing with a bad partner along the way too. And understand, you know, keep your options open, understand what your next move is going to be. You know, again, from our experience dealing with operators whose number of locations goes into the tens of thousands, that's what we'd recommend.
All right, thank you, Richard Newman from Scale Computing. It was awesome. And now I'm pleased to pass the mic to Tim Tang, who is Director of Business Technologies at Hughes. And if I also may add, Tim has been a key contributor to some restaurant technology network guidance, and such as the capabilities framework and the open APIs framework. Tim, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you, Robert. And my compliments to RTN for choosing this topic. When I think about the restaurant industry at large, I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is, how do I scale my brand? How do I go from that one restaurant to 3,000 restaurants and the like? And I think the mechanism, in contrast to, say, the retail and convenience store industry, is through franchising. And so when we think about the technology strategy, my encouragement to you is to think about that magnifier of franchising and its impact on your tech strategy and the like. The thing with franchising is you're dealing with independent business operators, and they're going to resist any kind of new technology burden that you put on them. They are going to just want to serve food and serve their customers and the like. And so any kind of technology initiative that you bring to bear, in order for it to scale, it needs to be adopted. It needs the path, the value proposition needs to be there. So my encouragement to you is to think about the roadmap, think about your steps as a path of phases, if you will. And that first phase is probably the most critical. It needs to be the one where you have the smallest investment with the biggest return, because that's where you're going to establish a relationship with your franchisees, and they're going to start to trust you. It's also that phase where, when you succeed with that technology initiative, you're going to create more business opportunity for your system to basically embrace more and future technology initiatives too as well. So I think the opportunities, as you think through your tech strategy, consider that kind of franchising component, that franchising element. You're going to need to convince your independent operators to buy into this, and the only way they buy in is when they see the business value of these technology investments. When it comes to the strategy, I encourage you to think about where you are underweight in terms of the resources that you have. So we are in a very tight market, high inflation, high cost everywhere, and it's very difficult with the profitability and the like. So I encourage you to think about the resources that are underutilized. In the restaurant industry, two areas that are most underutilized is the use of data to drive the business and the use of people. You know, with rising minimum wage, you're not getting a rising workforce in terms of their performance and their operational efficiency. And so, you know, your typical numbers, your typical HR would tell you that maybe your employees are working at 30% of what their capacity is. So the next question is how do you get the other 70% of what they can do? And so I encourage you to think about solutions that would actually gamify that frontline role, that would make that role an in real life video game where, you know, everything they do, everything they say becomes something that can be metric, can be measured, and they're just earning points. This generation of the workforces, People are people. They enjoy playing games. And if their job, that frontline role is a place where working hard gets them more points, gets them more recognition, they will work harder and they will bring forth the other 70% of what they could possibly do. I think as we look at how technology is changing the restaurant industry, it's really interesting. Technology used to be only available to the big players, those with the resources, with dedicated IT staff that had the ability to integrate all these complex applications. The beauty of this new AI dominated world is we're in the world now of solutions that solve their own problems to a large extent. Think about ChatGPT, think about your iPhone. When was the last time you read the instruction manual for any of these things? The beauty of a lot of these AI solutions is it's bringing technology down to that 5-site, 10-site owner now, where these are self-contained solutions that can bring business value without the requirements of a lot of dedicated IT talent. And then finally, I would just say that speaking to the larger end of the side, when you think about your tech strategy at the thousands of restaurants and the like, I think the critical success factor there is using AI to kind of automate and drive the operation. So think about the solutions in terms of an AI ops kind of play. From a Hughes perspective, we've been having some outstanding results looking at, for example, taking in, analyzing the conversation between our customers and our help desk. That is just a rich treasure trove of information and understanding of what's going on in the business, what problems are our customers having and the like. We analyze all that rich information. We throw it into a large language models. We use Gen AI technologies to understand the trends, understand the solutions, and then we build the tools to basically automate and drive down automate the troubleshooting, drive down the call links for our call agents and the like. And so think about how you can use the new technologies to automate the identification, the anticipation of problems, the identification of the problems, the resolution of the problems, and the generation of the tools as well. We're in a new world where if you can use the technologies appropriately, they return very well. We've saved over 30,000 hours now in help desk calls just with these technologies. And we've automated all kinds of aspects of our business, from the installation, the field maintenance, and from our operations as well.
Thank you, Tim. You raised some really good points there, and we're transitioning now into the portion that I like to call the round table, where everyone can participate. You can post a chat, you can raise your hand, but that notion of zeroing in on what are some low cost opportunities to make big progress. Sometimes we call it the low hanging fruit, is a fascinating place to start. And I think the intelligence can have a lot to do with that. Like you just articulated, taking customer feedback and making it real-time guidance rather than like a massive archive that somebody has to paw through. That's those days are over, and it can be leveraged for real-time analytics. And I think that's great. I'm just looking to see if we have anybody who'd like to take the mic and maybe address what our solution providers have said, or raise a new issue.
No questions in through chat yet, Robert. If we have any hands up, if anyone does want to participate in the conversation at this stage, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll call on you.
Yeah, if not, for now, I'd love to stay on this idea of what is the low hanging fruit where scaling is concerned. Well, what are some? Did somebody raise their hand? I just heard a voice.
Robert, if no one else jumps on it, I'd like to share the low hanging fruit for us.
Please.
We had determined the best way to go forward with telephone technologies advancing. We had determined we needed to go to VoIP, but the cost of doing it would save us $5 to $10 per line per month, which couldn't be justifiable. It would take 2 years to pay that back. But now with the exorbitant cost of standard POTS lines going from $25 a month to $150 a month per line for a 5-line store, suddenly we can convince the boss that we can pay off the VoIP project, all the equipment and all, and have a savings going forward and do that in 6 months time. Now it's a do it now. Let's get saving that money right away. So sometimes you have to look at things from multiple perspectives to really understand where that low-hanging fruit exists.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert, I'd just like to throw in there that, when we think about voice in the restaurant industry, a lot of the attention for the past year or so has been around the automation of the drive-through ordering, capturing the ability for customers to come in, put their order forth and the like. I'd like to also add kind of like another additional element that we've seen some really tremendous insights for. When you analyze the conversation between the employees and your customers, there's just a wealth of information that you can understand. You can understand what products customers want, what products they like. You can understand what your employees are having trouble with, what they are frustrated by. You can understand kind of from a compliance issue, are your employees offering the promotions the way they're supposed to? In other words, is a promotion not performing because it's just not a good promotion? Or is a promotion not performing because your employees aren't offering it and they're not taking the time to tell your customers about the loyalty and the like? So in addition to a lot of the success that many restaurants have used with the drive-through and the ordering, I encourage you to start thinking about, the restaurant industry lends itself very nicely. There's a drive-through connection between the customer and the employee. Analyze that conversation. There's a wealth of insights that you can
Yeah. It's not just at the drive-through either. For a couple customers now, we've deployed a solution which actually captures the conversation that takes place between an associate and a customer typically at the cash wrap or at the point of purchase. So there's this, the costs of the technology are relatively manageable. It's a relatively inexpensive microphone, but it captures the full interaction, and you can to get to what Tim said earlier. You can gamify this. So if a customer is supposed to ask about a loyalty card or a promotion, or if you're looking for use of abusive language or even, safety issues, all this stuff is captured automatically. It's speech to text automatically. It's all processed up in the cloud, and you get dashboards, and you can look at what those interactions look like. You can score them. We've had customers tie that type of thing into, paycheck-based incentives if you hit certain performance metrics regarding what your customers' interaction look like. And it's a powerful tool, again, particularly as you scale. And when you're running 5 restaurants, senior management's usually at least one of those restaurants every day. When you've got 5,000 restaurants, especially if it's geographically dispersed, chances are you're looking to find ways to understand what's going on better. AI provides that both in video and voice.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Tony Fernandez, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I thought I'd throw another one out there because we're talking about low-hanging fruit and the ability to scale. So you all remember over the last couple of years since the pandemic, the labor challenges that we were having, the cost challenges that we were having. So I wanted to cite some examples with some of the brands that I actually mentioned. And that's everyone's heard about it here. It's mobility and the use of mobile in restaurants. What's interesting for us from our observations, so whether they're the big brands that I mentioned or even the smaller brands that only literally have 3 locations up to 20 locations, mobile has proven to be one of those low-hanging fruits that provided relief on the labor front. We're seeing restaurants that are using that technology to actually improve their coverage on tables. For example, coming out of the pandemic, some restaurant groups had a reduction of 40% in their labor force, but they had to basically cover the same amount of tables as it ramped back up. So we saw some real improvements in labor savings associated with the ability to actually do more with less using technology, kind of like what you heard on some of the suppliers that provided. Additionally, what we also experienced with that same technical solution was that we saw turnaround times improving. In other words, taking orders at a table, and the order is already in the kitchen before the server actually even leaves the table. And depending on the workflow that the restaurant implemented, where they have someone else running the beverages or the appetizers, that was actually getting to the table, and the efficiency improvement and the customer satisfaction went up through the roof. We saw that at multiple brands, and it didn't matter whether it was a large brand or a small franchisee. And the last one there, which is interesting, was the adoption, right? So we had issues of, hey, we have young people that wanted to use more, traditional devices that you'd see from Apple or from Samsung, and they were comfortable with that technology, so they adopted that in the restaurant workflows a lot better than, let's say, some of the older generation that was there. Those are the facts that we heard. But what was interesting was that as that technology was adopted and some of those traditional models that were in place changed, what happened was we saw tips improve. We saw the responsiveness, customer satisfaction going up, tips improving, the server starting feeling better about providing that service with that technology. So it was an absolute win-win for everyone, the customer, the servers, the operators, and the franchise groups and the franchise operators at that point that saw a benefit. So that's a good example of a low-hanging fruit that everyone's looking to implement.
That's great, Tony. Thank you. Mingul, you have your hand up, and I see you posted a suggestion about menu comparison. I'm going to give you the mic.
Hi, thanks everybody. Yeah, it's Minghui from Vancouver, Canada. Yeah, so I also support restaurant in my local region. So from my experience, I think the menu comparison, like I mentioned in the chat, so that's currently the marketing department basically do that several times a year. And this is a quite time-consuming process. So they basically go to website to copy their competitors' price and compare one by one. So that process, once automated, can save them lots of time. And the other thing I think is the voice AI. I think many companies already start to implement voice AI that can basically be one of the hosts. Can replace one host in many cases, and that saves a lot of time. And also in the restaurant I support, now on daily basis, they have about 30 to 40 voicemail, and every voicemail is basically a missed sales. And yeah, the other thing I think is reviews. Most restaurants currently focus a lot on reviews, but more on how to respond to reviews, but not a lot of trackable actions. So how to get more insights from reviews seems to be another low hanging fruit. For example, if two restaurants across street, restaurant A wants to know, okay, I got lots of complaint about the waiting time. I want to know the other restaurant across the street if they have the same type of complaint. Mm-hmm. If they do not, then probably it's my problem, because we are very close, just across street. So this type of information, it helps them a lot.
Yeah, these are fantastic insights. Thank you so much. I saw that Doug from Monocle Pizza and Gil from Flynn had posted some comments here. Do either of you want to? Do either of you would like to take the mic?
I can if you'd like. Doug, your ROI justification is spot on. So we started on our VoIP journey in 2017 with our Applebee's restaurants. Mm-hmm. And back then, VoIP was not nearly as, I would say, resilient maybe as it is now. So I would caution from starting off, you got to get the right provider to start, right? A provider you're happy with, because you're porting all those numbers in. And that's a lot of work to do. So as far as whether you need a second internet line, dedicated internet line for phones, I think it probably depends on the restaurant and what you currently have in place there. For example, if you have a fiber circuit or a cable modem circuit or something like that, probably not necessary, assuming you can implement some type of quality of service on your phones to preserve bandwidth for them. So we've had some challenges with satellite technology just because of the latency. And what we've done in those restaurants is put in cradle points. So using cell service to run the phones. And that seems to work fine. I don't think our network team has visited that in a few years. And I know we have someone from Hughes on here too. So Tim, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about VoIP on satellite and whether the latency is like, maybe that's not even an issue anymore. I don't really know.
Thank you for the question, and very much appreciate and this is a big passion point of mine. I guess when I think about the use of voice, and like, one of the big struggles with restaurants is you don't always have control over the internet access to the restaurant, and the like, but you always have control over how you use that connectivity and the like. And so I think one of the key important things to think about with voice is it's very much latency sensitive. It's very much congestion prone. So any kind of interruption, disruption to that network convention will just end up with chirps, clicks, hips, and make it unintelligible voice conversations to a large extent. And so the trick with VoIP is to basically be able to understand be able to manage the traffic that's coming into that restaurant. And what I mean by that is most restaurants today, the reality of it is even the quote unquote business internet connections are really just like best efforts connections. Sometimes you get 50 megs, sometimes you get 5 megs. It just varies all over up and down the place. So the way you compensate with that is then you implement an SD-WAN technology to basically manage that. You want to basically essentially understand, do I have 5 megabits to work with, or do I have 50 megabits to work with? If I only have 5 megabits to work with and I put 10 in, I'm just going to randomly start throwing away packets and I'm going to get lousy voice. And so the idea is use the WAN optimization capabilities of many SD-WAN technologies today to understand the amount of bandwidth you have to work with, and then you shape your traffic to fit that capacity. If you only have 5 megabits to work with, you shape your traffic to fit those 5 megabits, and then that way your voice works, your point of sale works, and your employees get their video training, but you are able to get the business value of your internet connection in accordance to the value that it brings to your business. So the idea here is that the internet access to a restaurant is not a consumer grade, hey, just, let's have everybody contend for the best. It's a business service. And when you think about the mobile order, it's great that you can do offline credit card transactions when you have a network outage. There's no such thing as an offline mobile order. So the dilemma and the difficulty that we have here now is this internet connection, this best efforts, in many cases, consumer grade internet connection, is now a main point of contention in terms of your ability to do business with your customers. And it is absolutely critical that you start to understand that a $30 a month circuit may not be appropriate for a business that's doing $5,000-$10,000 a night on a Friday night, independent on those mobile orders.
That is,
To go ahead and step in, Robert, if I could.
Oh, yes, please.
So it popped up on the question and answer thing. What we did when we first started looking into this is we looked at the 3 primary ways you get internet. You get it. We don't have any DSL lines out there. We got rid of those long ago. We've got multiple providers giving us cable. We've also had a few providers giving us fiber. And in those instances where we have cable and fiber, that's a dual backup that you can't beat. And then for the others, we've been running 5G boxes, and we've been testing boxes from a couple of different providers. Again, we're not here to promote or denigrate any provider. So I'll just say I'm testing some of the ones, and different providers have different signal strengths in different areas. So test that I can't emphasize enough. Test, see what it'll do. But we found that having the SD-WAN in place and having auto switching so it can sense if the main primary internet goes down, move it over, and we've got a reserved portion of that bandwidth coming in on both the primary and the secondary that is reserved just for VoIP. So we keep ourselves running. We're going from having outages at least twice a month to having no outages at any stores. And that really is the key to keeping your business, the doors open, lights on, and your guests served in a timely fashion.
And Gil, one more thing just to add to you, when you had mentioned the latency of satellite, I believe you're referring to the latency associated with geosynchronous orbit satellites. My encouragement for you is to start looking at the LEO satellites. It's a beautiful kind of opportunity. I think it's very appropriate for no matter where you are, not only for your restaurants in the middle of nowhere, but even your food trucks and the like that are mobile and the like. I think the LEO, low Earth orbit satellite solutions will probably solve any kind of access or availability problems that you may have.
Tim, I love that you have a satellite recommendation. That is fantastic. I want to, Casey Badoka from Jack in the Box has posted a great comment that I'd like to acknowledge and shift the conversation to. and it's a great question. It's sort of in the vein of the low-hanging fruit. Casey's question is for the operators, the restaurant operators, is there a problem you've identified that seems like it should be easy enough to fix, and you haven't found a good solution to that yet? Might want to take 10 seconds to think about it. I could hum the Jeopardy tune, but I'm going to refrain from doing that. Does something spring to mind? Casey, it's a great question.
Robert, I can give an example quickly of something that I've thought of. I just don't have the tech skills to know if it's possible or where to start sometimes, right? So it's always good to bring here, but like, I was an operator for a long time in a drive-through, HME headset on, and to take time to go to the back office to say, I have a payment machine down, or I have a pop stall when I was at Sonic that is showing off kilter or whatever. I don't have time because I'm an MOD, which means I'm actually doing the work. I'm 75% in the line. That's how it works, right? So at the end of shift, to remember that I had stall 51, I need to go register or whatever, I would remember in the middle of the night. It would have, and sometimes the back office phone was off the hook because we don't want to take calls. Anyone on the help desk knows you can call the store all day, they're not going to answer. So how hard would it be to do something like HME integration to a help desk, to just double click my, to go off of my order intake line and do something like a double click to say, whatever my help desk is, this is the problem I have, and then to feed that into something like an agentic AI to make it easier in the future for me to just text something in, or maybe becomes a button on the POS that's integrated at some point that says, this is a typical issue for your location, hit that and keep going. So it doesn't have to be an MOD that registers it. So things like that. Just, do other operators have ideas that are like, this might be harder than I think, but geez, this seems like simple if someone would do it. And don't take that idea because I'm going to figure it out, everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Abdul, you had your hand up. Were you going to answer that question?
Yes.
Wonderful.
So what I was actually talking about, since going back to the VoIP discussion, and at our restaurant chain, we kind of implemented something similar. What we did, actually, we have a back office where we have, you can call our HQ for management of our restaurants, where I and my team sits, and also our restaurant, the franchise, which is owned by us as well. So we moved their telephone lines not just to be limited to a branch, but also to our HQ. And at HQ, I implemented with a group of my students, we implemented an AI automated call answering machine, which is a little bit advanced thanks to the NLP and AI what we were getting. So my team, they were very innovative. So we could take the orders on call, but at the same time send to individual branch wherever we want to send it to. So in terms of redundancy between multiple network providers, I was having the same issue which everybody was talking about, the latency issues and the call dropping and all that. But having a back office and having two different type of internet providers, plus at my location, I have a normal traditional coaxial base, but at my HQ, I have a fiber internet provider. So they both help me in a way that my calls are always up. At the same time, my orders are, I would say, at least 65% of my orders, they are already automated. And in order to get to 65%, when we started, we were at maybe 10 or 15%, because the kind of menu we serve about 320 different dishes. And each of that dish has a different combination to go with, So for me to train that AI system to be able to understand that the Asian food that we make, and we also do Mediterranean food, Asian food, and Western food, my AI system was just haywire. It couldn't even grab one order properly. So the calls were diverting automatically all the time to a live agent. But over the period of like 2 years of this training, what we did, we were able to actually grasp the combination. And the idea was one of I think Migui mentioned that strategy where you kind of copy or read other competitors' menus and then make a relation. We did something with our own system where we combined all the dishes and all the data of my 5 years operation, which items were going into each receipt. So with that, we trained our own system. And now if let's say somebody orders, let's say, for example, biryani, my AI chatbot, which is a voice chatbot, it automatically suggests, do you want a garlic naan? So if let's say or somebody orders a handi, we recommend rice with it, And as I said, with these tiny items, by reading people what they were ordering in their previous receipts of 5 years of data, it was all manual work because I wasn't that tech savvy, you can say, that I could automatically read all the receipts. But what we did exactly the same. One, without realizing, we engaged redundancy by having two different internet providers. Second is we moved all of our calls to VoIP and integrated our AI assisted voice assistants. And then thirdly, we were reading our own receipts to identify a best possible upsell and a combination with the existing order or whatever somebody is ordering. And that kind of strategy, without realizing, helped me tremendously, that my staff on my locations, they are very much at ease, and they only get a call if somebody has a change of order after they place the order, but most of the orders became automatic, including my drive-through. So I think that's a really interesting topic, which Higgs and I think other people have also mentioned. And I just wanted to add to the same point that having not a centric location or one point for all of this, having multiple locations and distributing your workload, especially with VoIP, kind of automatically helps when it integrated together. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Abdul. That was I loved that. Very, very much on point. I see Gil. Gil, you've got your hand up.
You're on mute, Gil.
Gil, I think you're muted.
And what he's saying is probably so good.
It's incredible. It's
I'm on the edge of my
revolutionary.
seat.
Gil, we can't hear you.
Let's try that again. All right, is that better?
Yeah.
So sorry about that. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this, a lot of time in the field, talking with managers and trying to figure this out. And the answer is not really one size fits all. In our company, like many large companies, we are looking into AI as far as leveraging that to help us to not only proactively fix things through orchestration tools and monitoring and things like that, with the goal being that we find things that are broken before anyone in the restaurant does, and we fix it under the hood before anyone sees anything's a problem. But for those other pieces right now, the challenge is, how do you make it easy for stores to report leveraging AI? From what I've seen thus far on service desk applications, most of them are using some type of a chat bot, and now you have to type. So if the only thing you have to type on is your back office PC and the issues at your front register, doesn't help. So we're looking at various different ways of piloting that in the next couple of years to get it right. I've also learned from a couple of our franchisors that have rolled it out, where our franchisors support point of sale, that in order to really get good adoption, the AI bot has to immediately take action. So if your credit cards are down, for example, the AI bot might automatically roll into your back office PC and reset some services or reboot something quickly to try to get it back up. So where things like that and the bot can bring value, it'll get usage. If the bot is just an obstacle to getting to a live person, then we found that that doesn't work as well. So I don't have a magical answer, but it's something that I continue to work on nearly a daily basis, of trying to find better ways for our restaurants to interact with us that are less disruptive and less time consuming.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
I would just also add that encourage you to kind of work with your technology providers to kind of address these kind of problems. Like for example, with our menu board system, we're using computer vision, video AI to analyze the screens to understand, hey, when is there defective content? I mean, when you think about it, having digital menu boards for one restaurant, two restaurants, one thing, but when you have it for 100, 200, 2,000 restaurants, how do you keep track of all those screens and making sure that they're showing the right content? You can't do that on a manual basis. You need to leverage the AI to understand what's good and what's not. I encourage you to, particularly in a franchise world where you have all these different, Gil was mentioning all these different point of sale platforms, consider a kind of a middleware strategy where you basically have a middle layer, if you will, in between all these different solutions. We do this with our managed cybersecurity services. We have all these different vendors that we're providing managed services across. Well, we send one command and then this middleware basically translates it to all the different providers that we're looking at. And that allows us to ingest all the data from all these different solutions, normalize it, and then be able to take action. So I think the agentic AI kind of play is something to think about where, particularly when it comes to something like cybersecurity, where you have machine speed attacks, you need to have machine speed responses.
Tim, this is why you're my friend, because I want to tell you my problems and make you fix them. This is great news.
I am here to help.
Well, this has been fantastic. I'm gonna hand it back to Abby to close us out at the top of the hour. But this has been wonderful. I feel like we could go for another half hour if we all had the time.
For sure. I just want to say thank you to everyone. This is a great regular ongoing gathering point for the RTN membership community to come together, hang out, share ideas in a very open, honest, and unscripted format. Our members that took the mic today, thank you so much. If you're interested in taking the mic, reach out to us, let us know. Bookmark your calendar for these town halls because these are great. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for participating and have a great rest of your day, everyone.